everyone, and welcome back to Modern Warships with Terry. Given how much enthusiasm you had for the first video, I figured let's do a couple more. Now, don't worry, I know some of you have been like, oh no, I don't want this to become the main topic of the channel. Don't worry, it isn't gonna be. But I figure I'll put a couple of videos in just as in one of the secondary slots. And we'll start this off with the USS Independence, the Tier 2 LCS. Now, what is an LCS? A literal combat ship. Not literal as in figurative, literal as in close to the coast. So the not in the deep, that sort of thing. This project was meant to be a very small ship that was heavily armed and that could take on larger capital ships while operating within small things like island chains and these sort of areas. Now, it didn't quite work out like that because requirements have changed and ideas have changed and plans have changed. And in the end, the LCS, there are two literal combat ship classes, more or less. There's the Independence class and there's the Freedom class. The Freedom class is a much more conventional design. The Independence class is a trimaran. So you can see it from the rear here. This ship is, well, not a lot of it is in the water, which gives it a very high speed. And the other thing that they ended up doing was make it a modular design. So the idea is that the LCS, or at least the Independence class LCS, I'm not sure about the Freedoms, but I think it's the same thing, that they can have different loadouts that are easily stowable in containers in the rear. So in this cargo hold here in the rear, you'd be able to stow a separate loadout system inside a ship, and you could switch her out from, say, from the surface warfare package to an anti-submarine warfare package, or to an anti-mine laying warfare package. So you could effectively refit the ship on as you go, without having to sail all the way back to the US into a port and shipyard and get that done. So you could trade out different weapon systems and all these kind of things. So that was at least the idea of how this is going to work. In practice, it wasn't very successful, because while the LCS here in the game has actually a pretty decent amount of weapons, the LCS-1, or at least the Independence class LCS, turned out to be very underpowered in terms of firepower. And the whole switch out your loadout sort of thing turned out to be a lot less useful than people thought. And they have some problems, especially around maintenance, corrosion, all these kind of things. So this is actually one of the projects where ships that are just a couple of years old and haven't even made it out through their sea trials, more or less, are going to be retired already. And the US Navy is planning, given that they're facing budget cuts, planning to move on to the FFX project for a future frigate. But yeah, this was not a particularly successful, this didn't end up being a particularly successful project. In game though, this is a very fun ship, I find, and this is a ship that I've been playing a lot. So let's have a look at what this thing can actually do. First of all, she's not particularly sturdy, and well, that goes without saying, but she is fast. Now, the speeds in game here are not reflective of reality, but I think in the real LCS-1 would be doing somewhere. Is this the 1 or is this the 2? Actually, it's a good question. I don't know, but anyway, the real Independence would have done somewhere around 50 knots. Here she does 38, almost fully upgraded, which is very fast in game. She does get the BGM-109 Tomahawk here and a vertical launcher. And also, again, this is not correct historically, or, well, does it count as historically? Even if it's just a couple of years ago, it probably does. Because as far as I know, the surface warfare kit only includes, I think, vertically launched Hellfires, but definitely not a cruise missile setup. Also, she gets the same 127mm cannon you'd find on the regular destroyers, which again was not how these things were kitted out. I think they had about 50mm main guns up front. The AA missile system may have been there. This is actually something I fitted on because in stock she comes with the close weapon systems, the very fast firing rotary gun things. She also does get a torpedo launcher, so this would definitely be the surface warfare kit if you had her, but I'm again not sure about the torpedo launchers on the real thing. And she actually gets an Apache on the landing pad. So as you can see, I have upgraded my Independence quite a bit, and that is something that I would generally recommend because the upgrades are making a big difference. Now, a lot of you have told me in the comments on the first video that I should outfit these with different missile systems. So let's have a very quick look of what you've been suggesting. So a lot of you have said to use either the P800 Onyx, which is a Russian design, supersonic, or the PJ-10 Brahmos, which is a Russian-Indian cooperative design based on the Onyx. And the Brahmos stands for the two rivers, I think, Brahmaputra and Moskva, is it? I'm not sure. Something like that. But it's definitely a cooperation. Now, the thing is, this is a US Navy ship. And I just can't. I can't stick a Russian missile onto a US Navy boat. It just, no. This is not how this works. It would drive me crazy. So I ended up saying, nope, screw it. I'm going to have to make this work with how it goes. And so I am still sailing with the BGM-109 Tomahawk, which is, compared to the Onyx, a much older system. I think the Tomahawks are coming somewhere from the 70s-ish, whereas the Onyx is a much newer design. Is a replacement for the Moskit, which we also have on older Soviet or Russian ship designs. But in general, so what I like about the Independence and why I think this is a good ship is because, well, A, she's very mobile, and B, she is multi-purpose. So you do have the cruise missiles and the guns, especially the guns. Don't underestimate these guns. I think a lot of people still do in game underestimate the amount of damage you can do with guns. There are games where I barely do anything with the cruise missiles because cruise missiles can be shot down, guns cannot. And the 127 mils here have a very good range. So, but yeah, you have the cruise missiles, you have the guns, you have torpedoes that you can use against submarines, and you have the Apache on the rear, which you can also use against submarines, and it will operate independently. Now, one thing again that you were recommending was to replace the Apache with an Osprey, and yes, you could. But I really like, one thing I really like about the Apache is the Osprey has a lot more hit points than the Apache. But one thing I really like about the Apache is that she gets both the Hellfires and she gets a torpedo launcher, whereas the Osprey only has the torpedo launcher. Torpedoes are reasonably easy to dodge in game, so that makes the Osprey pretty much more of an anti-submarine warfare thing. Whereas the Apache with the Hellfires actually has a decent chance of doing something at least against smaller surface combatants as well. So for now, I've been sticking with this. The only thing I've switched out is the anti-air missile launcher. Now, with a single missile launcher, you cannot defend yourself against concentrated air attacks. You can barely defend yourself against concentrated air attacks from one enemy ship, not even talking about multiples. But she's fast and you can get around. Let me show you what I'm talking about. Now we are playing on the Storm map, which is not ideal because this is the one map that has very little in terms of hardcover. I think there are only the oil drilling platforms in the middle. So I will actually have to stick back a little bit and stay with my team and get under the AA umbrella of the other ships that I've got here. But I'm launching my Apache because it is an independent unit and it can be useful on itself. But I'm just inching forward a little bit, keeping my bows in and getting the Tomahawk ready to do something once we've spotted these two enemy blips there. So we are up against 2 ships on this side and 3 ships on the enemy side. We've got 3 destroyers and 2 smaller ships, which is another reason I don't want to rush forward, but I can stick with this with these other two ships here that I have, and together our AA defense may be able to do a little bit. Now I do have a pretty good radar, but again I don't want to rush forward too much, and I think we just had a little bit of a bump here. Okay, there is an Indian destroyer, and we're going to open up with the guns and just look at once I actually managed to hit that thing. And I did get the Tomahawk on target, but we're going to focus this with the guns and look at the amount of damage that I can do with the guns and how fast these are reloading. Because while he can dodge things like torpedoes and shoot down missiles, the guns they can't do very much about. So I'm just staying here bow in, staying behind the rest of my team, because I am not a ship that is very good at tanking. In a map that had more concealment, I'd be more aggressive. But right now I'm just unloading at that unfortunate Indian destroyer just straight ahead, and she's down, which means, well, we're both one ship down, and there's another one we can start shooting at. So yeah, don't disregard your guns, because yeah, my missile was just shot down, didn't make it through. Find yourself a target that comes under fire. So for example, this one is taking missile fire, so it'll be a valid approach to start shooting with my own missiles. But in the meantime, just do damage with the guns, and it will really tick up. Now I am taking some fire in return because we are down to 2 ships, and we can equalize that one. But I think we might have probably lost this one. There's only 2 small ships left on our team, and the rest has been sunk. But we'll see what we can still do. The other one is in a very close engagement. Just fire everything and see what we can do. But I think against yeah, I'm the last against 3 enemy ships. We still get some damage in, but now that they have no one else to shoot at, I am very much going to come under fire. Now this thing is a bit faster, so I'm having a reasonably hard time to actually hit him with my guns, but I'm still trying. And obviously unloading torpedoes and missiles as I'm going, but yeah, they have overlapping AA systems now, so I just don't have the firepower to deal with it. Now the destroyer is starting to hammer into me, and you see how quickly I am going down here. There's really not much you can do about this, and there she goes. But we're still coming out. Yeah, we're coming out on top of our team, but yeah, against sometimes your teammates are your biggest enemies. There's only so much you can do. In general, this game is very focused on fire supremacy. Once you've got overwhelming firepower, it can go down for you very quickly. In the next battle, though, we're out in Unexplored Rocks. So here we have a lot more cover to work with, and we can play a lot more aggressively. And just use our speed to get ourselves into a good position. Because one thing you can do with these islands is, well, use them to defend yourself. Because things like missiles and homing torpedoes are not going around islands. If you're behind an island, they will take the direct route towards you. There's 1 carrier, 1 submarine, 2 destroyers, and 2 smaller ships. And I am just kind of sailing here on the left flank a little bit. There's a big radar signature up ahead that may be one of the carriers. So there should be 2 ships up ahead, and yeah, smaller signature is detaching, so that's probably an air wing coming in. And I am spotted, but I'm not sure if he's going to go for me. Yeah, there come the planes, so my defensive missile systems are opening up. But I'm just getting behind the island because and there is the Nimitz. Now Nimitz is generally a bit of an issue, especially with AA. So if she's not under concentrated air attack, it's not really worth wasting your cruise missiles on this thing. Torpedoes, on the other hand, generally work pretty well. So now that she's coming under attack from multiple sides, I am starting to open up the Tomahawks as well. And a Nimitz can shoot back, actually. So there are guns that are going to open up at you, but just the sheer amount of missile firepower and gun firepower is too much, and the Nimitz goes down. So that's the enemy carrier taken care of. Yeah, if you're in a carrier, you don't want to start rushing ahead, and you do want to stick with your team, and the other side as well. If you're in your team, you want to stick with your carrier. So now we've looped around, and while they are brawling with with our team over there, we are just hammering into this enemy team. Okay, there is an Arleigh Burke up ahead, so we do have to watch out a little bit, but me and that destroyer next to me are a veritable task force, and there's a lot of missile firepower coming in. And once again, don't forget your guns, because you can do a reasonable amount of damage. And yeah, my Tomahawk got through, and the Arleigh Burks just realized that he's taken on a lot more than he could chew. On your own, you are often pretty much helpless, because what you really need to do is you need to join your umbrellas, your AA umbrellas. Okay, now there's just a submarine and that is a frigate or a corvette or something left. So now I can go a little bit ham, which is gonna hurt, but just for the fun of it, because I do want to get towards chasing that submarine. And I do maybe have to be a little bit conservative with my torpedoes, but yeah, she's coming under fire from pretty much everybody. And yeah, I'll just loop around these things at 34 knots and unload the 127 mils into it, and there she goes down pretty quickly, which only leaves the submarine. So there's a torpedo coming. This is one of the super cavitating torpedoes by the speed of it. It's not a homing torp, because that's way too quick. So that one's missed, but that means the submarine is somewhere down that direction. Now, for anti-submarine warfare, I prefer the Apache, and because the Apache seems to be the one actually having the sonar. It looks like the Independence by herself does not, because I haven't been able to. I might be wrong here, but I haven't been able to actually detect submarines oftentimes when it was just me and my helicopter was shot down. Okay. There she is. So helicopters are, and don't fly into the island, that would be an ex-helicopter. But yeah, helicopters are often very good weapons. And then you just use the, you can't shoot him with your guns while he's submerged, but you can definitely drop torps on this thing. And the best angle to drop torpedoes is from the rear, because coming from the side like this, yeah, torpedo has missed. So we're gonna launch another one from the rear. So front or rear launch torpedoes, which takes a little getting used to if you're coming from World of Warships, because that's kind of what you want to do there. You want to turn into the torpedo spread because they're unguided. Whereas here, these are homing torpedoes. So if you're giving bow or stern to it, they actually have a much better chance of hitting. And I think the submarine is out of torpedoes. I'm just chasing after him a little bit because he managed to get out of sonar range. I still have 5 torpedoes left. You see it there in the bottom right corner of the aiming reticule. There he is again. So there's still a bit I can do. If the submarine runs out of air, and yeah, which is again not particularly realistic, but if it does, then it'll have to surface at some point. He's coming quite close, so I'm just switching on the speed. So now the computer player is taking over my ship here. I don't know if he's actually going to launch torpedoes if I'm spotting the submarine, but he's definitely sailing towards it. And I'm not sure what the AI is doing with my ship here, but I didn't want to just sit stationary in one point, because if the submarine still has torpedoes, then that will be dangerous. But I think he's out. And yeah, once again, that torpedo has missed, but he's coming up to the surface, so over to the Hellfires, and just get the 30 mils out and hit him in the side, and all the missiles are coming in, and that thing is very much toast. So yeah, we've done a very good amount of damage. So even if the ship itself is not particularly sturdy and doesn't have a huge amount of weapon systems compared to larger ships, the speed and the capability of positioning yourself and just the multi-role capabilities of taking on submarines, of taking on enemy destroyers if necessary, just makes it a very, for me, a very, very fun ship to play. Plus, I just like zipping around the map. It's much more interesting to me than sitting back and firing missiles every 10 seconds and then just waiting to see what happens. So yeah, don't forget your guns. And if you like the literal combat ship, then I think the Independence is a good choice for a tier 2. I have been rather successful in this thing. Anyway, that's it for today. Thanks everybody, and I'll see you next time. Bye.